I'm from Germany. I have to start on time. Sorry, it's like it's in my genes. Can't do anything about it. Welcome to this session. This is the esoteric culture session, but mandatory session. So let's see. So my name is Soenke, and you can find me on Twitter, and I'm the co-founder of Superluminar, which is a consultancy based in Hamburg, and we do stuff with AWS and serverless mostly. We are an advanced consulting partner. We're also doing the serverless days Hamburg. So so much for me and the advertisement part. So now I have to ask you, which group are you belonging to? Would you yourself consider a front-end developer? Any front-end developers here? One? Okay. Full stack. Back-end? Operators? Ops people? No ops people. Managers? Or also a few managers? Nice. Okay, so the agenda for today is quick intro, what's serverless? I guess you already had some intros. So then let's have a look at the shift in mindset. Then why learning and unlearning old and new habits is so hard. So this will be like the main part of the presentation, and strategies to amplify learning and unlearning in organizations and more towards a serverless mindset. So let's have a look first at some definitions of serverless. So one is from Paul Johnston. He says serverless solution is one that costs you nothing if nobody is using it, excluding data storage. So this is no pay for idle stuff. It also means that serverless isn't function as a service. It's more means serverless means serviceful. So we use many managed services. And it's actually also a way to focus more on business value. So at least this is what it propagates. So for me, it's that serverless is actually a shift in mindset. And what do I mean with that? I mean that entire teams or departments in our organizations, at least in bigger organizations, used to commission and configure and use and scale and maintain and upgrade and debug and in the end decommission networks and servers and containers and operating systems, load balancers, databases, storage, queues, APIs, identity logins, CI/CD systems, and so on, analytics. And now with serverless, it looks a little bit like this. So now there's not much left anymore. I don't know if with this light you can see the difference, I hope. So actually networks and containers and operating systems and stuff is now getting more and more invisible subsystems. So they're still there, but as the users, we don't care anymore so much. And also most of the stuff there, like the practices, are also getting more and more invisible. So at least when you go fully serverless. So let's have a few more examples what it means, what if serverless mindset means. First, let's have a look at costs. So in a pure serverless world, there are only variable costs, which means so we pay per request or per byte. So in our storage, we pay per byte. In our whatever API gateways also, we pay or in our queues, we pay per request, and in our compute, we pay per CPU time. This actually means that we have a low obscurity of cost. What do I mean with that? So we used to have something like this. We used to have something like highly obscure cost, which was okay, there's an ops team, and there's infrastructure costs, and it's more like a black box. And now it's a little bit more like this. Now we have we have the usage, the x-axis, and we have the cost. And usually your cloud provider bill with serverless goes like this. It's just linear. So, and hopefully your revenue function looks like this. So it's it's above the cloud provider bill, and it also scales linear. Then you're like on the good side, which means that actually it's okay that Bezos gets all the money because we earn more. So as long as we earn money more than our cloud provider bill, that's probably good. Then there's, I would say, like the serverless mindset is also a little bit different in how we build stuff. For example, when we don't build stuff on our own if there is a service or product we can use. And we try to reuse existing stuff as much as possible, like existing services. And infrastructure and code are no asset for us. So it's not like, wow, we have this nice servers, or we have this nice whatever we built. We have the nice message queue system we built on our own. But it's more like a liability. We are not like proud of it. It's just like we have to do it because our business depends on it. So, and actually like in the serverless mindset, I would say it's more like we honor the labor cost. It's not like this. It's like the ops department, and it's there anyway, and we have to pay them anyway, so they can also do whatever, host, like build a Kubernetes cluster or whatever. Actually, we could say that people could operate stuff, or they could also build features which might bring more revenue to the company. So this is like the shift in mindset. Like there's not only people who are there anyway, and we have to give them some tasks, but how can all the people in the company do as much customer facing and business value bringing stuff as possible? So it's like the mindset is more using services than using products. So here's a little table. It's not like it's how we used to do, in the old world. We had all these products which we used, like Nginx and Keycloak and Hadoop, and now it's like in the service world, they are usually more or less services also available. So we go now from self-host the stuff to using the services. Some of the stuff is also like available as a service. For example, MongoDB or stuff like that is also available as a service. But this is just this is just an overview, which is so I could also add Azure there and other clouds, but this is just an example. Okay, so you say, okay, so what? And for me, it's a little bit like people which used to do server full stuff might get into trouble in this new world. So, and for this, we may have to look at how organizations learn. And the fun thing is that organizations are usually an organized resistance to learn. And you say what? And I say yes, because organizations need to have some learning resistance. Otherwise, they couldn't do their day-to-day job. If everybody just does stuff on their own, is not organized, and they say, hey, we are learning somehow, then the organization cannot survive. This is also in the name organization. It means organized, which is organized means it's something static. So, and actually in the organization world, it's very messy. There are many barriers to knowledge and learning and unlearning. Just have a look at this small list. So you might have heard of the not invented here syndrome or Dunning-Kruger effect or simple stuff like hierarchies or micropolitics and stuff like that. So there's many stuff going on in organizations which actually inhibits us from doing like learning or unlearning old habits and learning new habits. So I have one example for my favorite cognitive bias, which is called illusory superiority. I hope I did this correctly. And it says it's from Casey Hightower, and he says some people believe that rubbing Kubernetes on a stateful workload turns it into a fully managed RDS. And this is somehow like what I call, it's a little bit like, I think that I can host like an RDS system on my own. And there might be also like with this, I do Helm install whatever, it might also look a little bit like this, that it's that easy, but in the end, it's not that easy. And in the end, it also sometimes looks like this. I want to deploy so what do I have to do to deploy my small block? I have another one for you, just to get me some time to drink something. There it comes. There it is. At least you like my animated GIFs. It's always good to have animated GIFs. Some time ago, Google actually didn't support them, and I was very disappointed. So another problem is that the knowledge you gain and the knowledge your group or team gains is part of your identity. So this is one of the most significant problems when you try to learn new habits or unlearn stuff. Here's like another quote I have: "The acceptance and valuation of external knowledge can be perceived by insiders as a degradation of the own achievements, expertise, and competence of the in-group." You could think about like, okay, maybe the cloud provides the external knowledge and our existing devs and ops or whatever teams are the in-group, so maybe they don't like it, and in consequence they then reject external ideas to protect or defend their group identity. So they dismiss external ideas, and or external cloud providers, and this is actually what's the definition of the not invented here syndrome. And this is a very human, also cognitive bias. So just imagine you have been doing like administrating Jenkins and optimizing it for 20 years, and now there's a service coming out, and it's like, oh my God, what have I been doing 20 years? And now it's just an API call. So then or think it's the Jenkins department. Then it's like you're threatening their existence with this stuff. So knowledge management and learning and unlearning is always psychology and organizational psychology. Or as Eric Hammond states, so as developers we aren't generously conscious that we are spending so much time until somebody, maybe AWS, takes away those problems and narrows our focus further on the business problems. So what I said, unlearning can be a painful experience for people, and so the problem is like, how do we unlearn? Could we find maybe a way of organized learning and unlearning, like a meta process, or what we need in organizations, because there is this change, and there will be always this change. It's like, how can we install a routine to cancel routines, like a routine to unlearn stuff. Like, this is the holy grail of knowledge management. And so I've researched some possible solutions. So some time ago, like almost 10 years ago, I wrote my diploma thesis on knowledge management, so I had some background in this area, and so I researched some possible solutions. And this is like when you are faced when you're in your company and you're faced with stuff like this messy human stuff, and not everybody's like, yeah, serverless, then there might be some stuff here in for you. So, and the first thing which would be a good idea for a company is to have actually a knowledge strategy, which means that as an organization, I know what I want to learn, and I also know what I want to unlearn. So I could ask myself some general questions. For example, why do I need which knowledge? Or what organizational value can be created with new knowledge or revised knowledge? Or what future capability do we acquire through which organizational expertise? And for this, we could draw a map. And maybe you know something like this. Who knows it? Wortley map, yes. So we could draw a map of our organization. So we first start with our customer or user need, and then we have an application, which is probably our product, and it uses all the stuff here. And now with the cloud providers, it's more of the stuff like API endpoints and user management and runtime execution, like Lambda, is like more and more commodity. And we could say something like, okay, there's the API, and so for us so this is our business, we should focus there. And like, don't focus below the red line. So practice what the knowledge management people call positive ignorance, which means it's cool that I know what I don't need to know. So it's like this known unknowns. So I know that all the stuff is there, but it's also okay for me to not care about it, because then I can put my focus and effort somewhere else. So I could say as a knowledge strategy, okay, we can unlearn the details here and learn how our cloud building blocks behave. And so this was about like, okay, what to unlearn, and then there's also knowledge which would be cool, or then there's also knowledge which we can keep and which still doesn't go away with serverless. So, and I call this like universally applicable knowledge. And I have a small list for this, like, for example, ports and adapters, hexagon architecture. So this is now the slide where you can take the photos when it's done, testing and the test pyramid, and domain-driven design and design patterns, fallacies of distributed computing, CAP theorem, deployments, how does it work, migration patterns, SQL injection, or not preparing data for subsystems, and stuff like that. So this is actually stuff which won't go away even with serverless. So maybe focus more on that and not focus so much on how to configure Nginx. So because you will also need this stuff probably with the thingy which comes after serverless, whatever that will be. So because there's some physics in it and stuff like that. So yeah, so I would say like this is stuff we can always focus on. And this is also like a non-comprehensive list. If you have more ideas what should be on this page, please ping me. So this could be our knowledge strategy. So we now know what to build in-house and what to outsource. We know what to learn and unlearn and what to keep. And then it's also then it's also very important to have safety for people. So we need something like psychological safety. We need physical safety, which is I would say in our space like usually software developers won't get hurt that much. And we need job security, which is really important. So remember the Jenkins department, now threatened by the cloud provider. It's very important to tell the people that they will still be needed, but now they have to lift up their jobs. And then we need something like team and personal development, and for that, coaching would be cool. And what I find very important is we need the right incentives, which means that, as Eli Goldwett states it, tell me how you measure me, and I will tell you how I behave. So if you are an organization and there is no incentive to use serverless stuff, then why should people do it? So, and I have done something like what could be example objectives for serviceful developers, and it could be something like what you could do in your review meeting with your boss, or your boss could do with you, you could free up, like something like, hey, I freed up so and so much time of toil by outsourcing stuff. I used Service X instead of maintaining it on my own. I refactored something, so we reduced the cloud bill. So something like that, so that people who are not intrinsically motivated to do stuff, that you maybe then make the motivation extrinsically, I guess it's the right word. You're the American. And so on. So we need maybe something like incentives. And then the maybe holy grail is how can we change our organization without destabilizing it too much. So what I said earlier is organizations are organized units, and every learning actually means a destabilization of the system, because then there is something new which we don't know. What's the outcome? So how could a routine to cancel routines look like? And for this, I'm a very big fan. Sorry, it's the next slide. So we could do something like, okay, experimenting or trying into a direction. So we need some way of disciplined learning and experimenting, and actually not doing random stuff, but doing it towards a vision or a strategy, and something which enables small wins for the people, so that it's not like a hard change, Jenkins department, you're now gone, but it's more like, okay, Jenkins department, how could you evolve into a whatever department? And for this, I found the Toyota Kata. Does anybody know this? Yeah, some people are. Sorry. How does it look? So at least 2 people. So the Toyota Kata is actually like a disciplined way of learning and doing like a problem statement and then trying to find solutions through experimentation, and it's done within the team. It's not like I, as the boss, will tell the team what to do. So let's maybe like have a team where like there are many deployments failing. So it would be cool that 100% of our deployments succeed. So this could be like our challenge. Our current condition is that only 50% succeed. And so we could say, okay, maybe it's not a good target condition that we have like 100% succeeding, but the next target could be like 70%. So this is like what the Toyota Kata does. It has the current condition and it has the target condition. So, and this is like measurable numbers. It's not like gut feeling or something like, or hippo opinion, like the highest paid opinion. So this is very important. So we could now go and we go now into like PDCA loops, like plan, do, check, act. And how does it work with the Toyota Kata? It's like, okay, first as a team we state what's our obstacle. And the obstacle could be something like our self-hosted CI system is flaky. So it breaks 50% of our deployments. And then we could classify and measure why the build fails as a step. So we expect that we then have a better understanding. And after we did it, so like we have the obstacle, we have the step, we have the expected, and this is, and then we have the learned. And actually the gap between expected and learned, or the outcome is like what we learned. So usually it's, so when expected, like when the outcome is not the expected, then you actually learned something. If the outcome is the same, then you probably didn't learn anything new. You just like have more confirmation bias after that. So we could have learned here that our integration test suite triggers bugs which are probably fixed in version 2 of the CI system software. So the Jenkins department thinks, okay, we might install Jenkins X. So the obstacle is now upgrading. So now we go into the next iteration, and then the obstacle is upgrading CI to version 2 could be a fix, but it's not our core competency. So now like this incentive and strategy kicks in, like, okay, what should we do now? Should we upgrade to version 2? Or should we now go ahead in another direction? So we could research whether it's possible to use a managed service, and we expect that there are managed services available, but we don't know if they fit. So then in the next iteration we learn, so okay, now the team goes and researches stuff, and it finds out, okay, now we find something which is available as a commodity, for example, Travis, Circle CI, and Code Build. Then they go, okay, now we are still at 50%, so we are still at our current condition, we did not reach our target condition yet, so, and now it goes on, as you see, there's like an PDCA loop, like plan, do, check, act all the time, going through, and it's like a very disciplined way of learning. It might look now a little bit cumbersome, because sometimes you can do this like, this is actually like you have to express, it's a little bit like pair programming, you have to express what you have to like express your thinking, and so the next obstacle now is, okay, we cannot migrate the entire CI system. So the step could be, okay, then we identify if we could split out integration tests, for example, to a managed service. So we also expect that we can do this, and after the team did their research, they found out that Code Build could take care of the integration tests. Then the next obstacle is, now you get it, I guess. We have to find out how Code Build really works for integration tests. So we added parallel Code Build step and measure if it's more stable than the current solution. So we just put it like as a second solution next to our existing CI solution. We expect or hope that it's more stable, because this is why we're doing it. So Code Build, and in the end we learned that Code Build proved more stable, because we put it not in US East 1, no. But we can replace the custom build part, and this is somehow a structured way to learn new habits and to unlearn stuff, and it's like a team effort, because the team, everyone can say, okay, let's try this experiment, and it's more like, okay, how to come closer to the target condition. So yay, our target condition is reached, because now 75% of our deployment succeeded. So it's just a made-up example. So the improvement kata, or Toyota kata, is a scientific way of learning. it's a little bit like experiments, not opinions. So like every opinion you state has to prove as an experiment. It's a routine to cancel routines. And it's a real continuous improvement because you improve towards something. It's not like you do random changes to your system and somebody says, this was an improvement, but was it really an improvement? So, and this is like when the team agrees up on a target condition, then you can measure the improvement, and then it's, as I said, then it's a real targeted continuous improvement, not only something which somebody came up with. And hopefully the entire team is included and aligned. So this is also like it's not. So it's really like was now a simplistic view, because usually there's also like a coaching kata, and then there is like a coach and an implementer and stuff like that. But just to give you an idea how this works. So what could be like homework for you? It could be you could check out the Wortley mapping and draw actually a map of your product or your team, what you are doing, and then it's like, maybe there's stuff which we are custom building, but there's also like a product or commodity building block available. Maybe we should have a look there. So actually practice your researching skills. Most of the time as developers, we are now Googling all the stuff, so practice your research skills, how to get the right services up and running, and identify your core competencies and master them. Don't master invisible subsystems. And try positive ignorance, like you know what not to know. So you know that it's there, but it's an known unknown. You know that there's more stuff there, but you don't have to care because it's not part of your core business. And maybe try the improvement kata. There's also much stuff out there on the internet. And be humble. Don't be the Dunning-Kruger. Don't build if you just want to host your static website. Don't build your own whatever cluster. And all the stuff what I showed you is like I found it elsewhere. I did not invent anything by myself. I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, as we all do all the time. So there's the knowledge management stuff, there's the Wortley mapping, there's organizational psychology. This is where all these barriers to learning and unlearning came from. There's learning organizations, which also tell you that organizations are not learning organizations. And then there's system thinking. And then there's also the Toyota Kata. So this is all this esoteric stuff, which I try to tell you about. And actually, that's all I got. I hope you got something out of it. I know it's a little bit esoteric and experimental. That's fully okay for me. So thanks. I'm open to questions or feedback. Feedback is also okay. Like I didn't understand anything. What the fuck are you doing here? Is also good feedback for me, because then I can try to improve up on it. Thank you. Any questions or feedback? Or better, want to give it in private also. Yes?
I have a question. So for example, if you have a Jenkins team, like as it now in Jenkins, when you push them to, not push, just motivate them to go to others, to go to Serverless. So how you can be sure that they do job in the right way, is optimized like a cost, they can cover everything from security sides. It's a bit tricky when people like integrate new technology, so you're always not sure is it the best match.
Yeah.
How we do it.
So it's usually like when you push people, then so there's this speech like the harder you push, the harder pushes the system, in this case the team back. So it's always not a good idea to push people, because then they react with resistance usually. So so what you can do, what I said is like you could do something like working with incentives. So you just incentivize something like, hey, please use commodity building blocks. I don't know if this, I've never heard this is actually anyone doing in practice, but so would be also like, if you have feedback on this, would also be proud. And the other thing is like, yeah, they have to somehow learn it on their own, how to get there. And the only thing you can give them is like constraints, like it has to be secure, whatever that means, or stuff like that, or the build should finish within 1 minute and stuff like that, so they can run and find their own solutions. And I guess it's a little bit like, yeah, when they used to do Jenkins like for 20 years, then it might take some time. But then it's like the small wins, like, okay, where can we maybe add? It's not like that they have to do like a hard migration and everything from today to tomorrow is in the cloud, but it might be like small wins, like, okay, now we took this small part out of it and out of Jenkins or whatever. So I don't want to blame Jenkins all the time because it's a great tool. So like this, going into this direction with small steps, and then it's sometimes also a little bit like if you are not the manager, you might also don't have the power to tell them something, or it's just like that. You can hope that they will embrace the new stuff. Yeah, this is what I meant with you need to have something. So if you really want it, the organization really needs to have something like a strategy and to measure if they got there. So when you look at, for example, when you look at this keynotes at reInvent, when they get these people on stage like, yeah, we are going 5 years all in AWS and stuff like that, then you see, okay, this is the CTO or whatever, so it's coming from the top. But if there's nothing coming from the top, then it's harder. Yeah. Yes.
It's not a question, but an argument. Maybe. So one of the hypotheses, a few hypotheses here, that IT infrastructure is liability rather than an asset.
Yes.
While such hypothesis would never be liked by the financial teams. Financial teams normally within any organization, they consider IT infrastructure as an asset.
Yes.
From that perspective, going for serverless is more to go toward that pay-as-you-go, which is part of the operational expenses.
Yes.
Normally, organization would like to minimize the operational expenses compared to server architecture, which is part of the capital investment, which they are okay to do with. So how do you see this argument between IT team, management, and the financial team within the organization?
So I have no real answer for this. Only like I would think if you go to your chief financial officer and you explain them, hey, we now have like this billing model and you can now look into the costs, like, wow, we can now see where's to which business function, where's the cost going and also where's the revenue coming from. And you can, for them, it was like a black box. It was like this, okay, IT team, infrastructure cost, black box. And now they have like, if you explain them, hey, you can now look into your cloud bill and you can see where stuff is going. This might be very interesting for them. I guess they will be like, wow. Maybe they will also be like, okay, I didn't want to know this because now I have to change as well. I don't know. So I would hope that they are more like, if embraced correctly, they are more like, wow, that's really cool. But yeah, the bigger the organization, the harder it is to change it. Yeah.
I do think what you're saying, the procurement teams do like the predictability of the bill, so they would rather spend $1 million on servers and know what the bandwidth and power consumption costs were going to be, than to say, well, it could be anywhere from $50 to $1 million, and be able to have that certainty. So
Yeah.
that is certainly something that would be helpful to, maybe there's another presentation teaching procurement teams how to
Yeah.
spend less money
Yeah.
in variable environments.
Yeah, and I guess so I would say that with serverless it's actually more predictable because in the old world it was like, okay, what happens if we hit the limit? Then it's like, okay, now we have success disaster, but we can't scale anymore. So now we are losing customers, and now you can say, okay, we can now pay our cloud provider more to even serve the peak traffic or whatever we get. So, and if your cost function and your revenue function is aligned, then I would say this is really cool. If it isn't aligned and your costs are going linear and the revenue is going more like this or something like that, then it's not so great. But then you could look up, okay, how can we refactor our serverless application and it looks like it somehow generates at least traffic, because you only have this problem when you have traffic, because otherwise it wouldn't be serverless. Then you can say, can you argue with your financial team, okay, I can fix that, but I then can't build feature X, Y, Z, whatever. So stuff like that. So you are now in the position that you can argue stuff because you don't have this big block of obscure costs anymore. So I guess we also have now better arguments, because we now have better data, we can also argue better about what's really important. And maybe then some manager can overrule the how was it called? Procurement. Procurement, yes, procurement department. Yeah.
I was wondering if there is any continuation or analogy of Conway's law to the serverless. It means like if your team is front-end and back-end, your application will consist of only two parts, front-end and back-end. If your team has multiple sub-teams, it will probably have something like microservices. So what can be the team representation in the serverless world?
In the serverless world, the team representation, so usually, or hopefully, even in the microservice world, from what I see, is the trend is also going to cross-functional teams. So there's always a team is always bound to a business function, or a product or a service. So even if Jenkins goes away or whatever goes away, or technologies change, the team will persist as long as the service or product they are maintaining and evolving is not there anymore, decommissioned, or has no users anymore. So I would say this would be in Conway's law. But if you have still back end and front end teams, then it might be, or ops teams, then it might be a problem. There's a good talk about this. What do we do with our operations team? It's what do we do when the server goes away? From Tom, you know it. Yeah. So when you Google what do we do when the server goes away, you will find it, because this is he makes some great insights. What's now what is the sysadmin 2.0 now looking like in the public cloud world? Okay. Any more questions? Otherwise, thank you for having me.